Good morning, Cyber Warriors. Going to be going over very briefly different ways to view either log files or files that exist on the Unix system or the Ubuntu in this case. Um, these are commands that you'll be using quite a lot throughout your career, and they have different uses and ways to get after them. Some are better than others, and it's up to you to figure out which works best for your particular style and how you operate within the system. So let's go ahead and get right to it. Okay, so let's get started here. We're going to start taking and talking about 5 different ways to look at files or databases or logs on the system. These are things you're going to use a lot. Some of them work better than others to feed into a loop or a variable or a script. But these are 5 very common ways to use the bash shell to look into files, logs, or databases. The first one is going to be cat, because who doesn't like a good video about cat? And we're going to go into the passwd file because this is something we're going to get intimately familiar with. So cat will grab the entire file and dump it all into one big giant list on your screen. And you can use your mouse to scroll up, and that's fine. Clear, and we're going to do a different one. And this one is more, because we want to see it one page at a time, and that is where more shines. So you enter, and you see you have a value of how far through the file you are. And you can hit the enter key, and it'll go one line further down. Or you can hit the space bar, and it'll go one page down. And then once you get to the end, it dumps you right back into your shell. So this is handy for being able to look at something that you have that you know is going to be a handful of pages, but not necessarily too long. And its companion, which is the same but different, because when you have more, you also have less. But strangely enough, less is more. It works very similarly to more, where the enter key will go one line down at a time. You can go up with your up arrows. You can go down with your page down and your page up, or you can use the space bar to also go one page at a time. And instead of dumping you back out into your terminal, it allows you to stay inside the file and move back up if you want. Now, with both more and less, the way to quit out of that is hit Q. Q to quit. And you'll notice that with less, there's less clutter on your screen after the command is done and you've exited. So this allows you to kind of keep your screen from being cluttered with the shrapnel that is your file that you looked at. Now, another way to take a look at your files is better suited for log files. And let's go take a look at a log file, and we're going to do tail. Var log apt history, because we want to take a look at what's been installed. You'll see that it will give you by default 10 lines. Now you can change that by giving it the argument or the parameter of -n, and you give it the value that you want to use. In this case, we just want 5 lines. And this is great because it tells us what the last thing to be installed was. And this was the net tools, which allowed us to use the net stat capability. There are other uses for this, other log files that you can take a look at. Let's log look at var log, and see there's a handful of different logs that you could take a look at. It's just a matter of identifying what you want to look at, and tail allows you to see the most recent entries of those. So we've talked about the cat, we've talked about more, we've talked about less, we've talked about tail. There's also top, which I don't find very useful, especially for a cybersecurity thing. Top is great for administrative items, monitoring, and these sorts of things, but I'm not going to go over that because there's specific stuff that I'm not familiar with, and I don't want to really muddle my way through all of it. And honestly, I don't use it like ever in all of my years of working in this industry. It's just, I find other tools to be better for what I am doing with the security focus. But there is another one which I think is highly underrated and not many people talk about, and that is the command getent. And this allows you to take a look at all of the databases that are on a system, on this system. So let's take a look at those. And that they are in the /etc. So all of these that are in white, these are all basically databases that it sees and understands as a database. Let's see. Let's take a look at. Let's look at sudoers. So get ent sudo. Oops. Maybe this one is not actually. I guess it's not. Not all of these are databases. Let me look at one that I do know is a database, and that is get ent group. So this shows all the different groups on the system to include the users that are assigned to them. And let's look at password, get ent passwd. And you notice that I'm not actually doing the full the absolute path in order to get to the file, unlike having to do the same thing with cat. So in order to get into this with cat, you would have to do cat /etc/passwd. Oop. I was missing a space. So you see that as long as it is a database, it will allow you to do the autocomplete. Shadow. And no file in shadow. The reality is there is a file there, but it is a protected file, so you have to use sudo. Not sudo, but sudo. Going back to password, we can actually cast it to grep in order to find specific things. For example, we want to take a look at everyone with a bash that uses the bash shell. There it is. Root, student, dean, professor, and assistant. So it works very similarly. You can do the same thing with cat etc/passwd. Boom, it looks exactly the same. It's getent is just a little bit more elegant for that same bit of information. So there you have it. 5 simple ways to view into different log files, databases, and um, other flat files through the Bash terminal. Alrighty then, Cyber Warriors. So we went over 5 different ways in order to look at files and the contents of files, whether it is a flat file, database, or log, using cat or less tail and getent. Um, those are just things that you need to become familiar with. Some are better suited for different things than others. When in doubt, cat it out, because cat is pretty much the easiest one to use. It's ubiquitous. It goes through everything. But there are niche scenarios for each of the other ones that where they shine above other things. Play with them, get to know them. The more that you use them, the more familiar you are, and the better and faster you're able to go through the system. Well, as per always, I hope you learned something. Happy hunting, and I'll see you in the next video.